Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm here to tell you something raw, something real, and it's going to sting a little, but truth often does. It's about power, dignity, and self-respect. The title says it all. Don't block him, don't beg. Now let's break this down. You meet someone, you let them into your world, and for a while everything is perfect. But then things start to crumble. They pull away, lose interest, or even outright reject you. And what do most people do? They react. They block, they beg, they try to claw their way back into the good graces of someone who clearly isn't valuing them. Stop. Because you see, blocking someone isn't power. It's just a way of saying, I can't handle you in my world. And begging, that's the ultimate submission. You're throwing yourself at the mercy of someone who didn't appreciate your worth in the first place. Instead, you move differently. You walk away with your head held high. You don't need to make a scene. You don't need to chase, and you certainly don't need to beg for someone's attention or affection. You know what's truly powerful? Indifference. The moment you stop giving energy to someone who took you for granted, you reclaim your strength. You are the prize, the force, the one who controls their own destiny. Never chase someone who's walking away. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. Why are we so obsessed with seeking validation from those who undervalue us? It's insecurity, it's the fear of being alone. But here's the thing, being alone is better than being disrespected. Every time you block someone or beg for their attention, you're giving them control over your emotions. You're saying you have the power to affect my peace, but the truth is they don't. Unless you hand it to them. Instead of blocking, let them see you succeed. Let them see you glow. And if they never look back, even better, because you're not living your life for them, you're living it for you. Instead of begging, level up. Build yourself so high that the person you once thought you needed becomes irrelevant. Blocking someone might feel like an act of power. You tell yourself it's a way to protect your peace, to cut out negativity, or to show that you're unbothered. But here's the cold truth. Blocking someone is rarely about power. It's about emotion. It's about admitting that they got under your skin, that their presence or their actions rattled you enough to make you react. Think about it. When you block someone, you're sending a clear message. You have affected me so much that I can't even bear to see you exist on my screen. You're handing them the satisfaction of knowing they got to you. And whether they admit it or not, it feeds their ego. It tells them that they managed to live rent-free in your mind. Is that really the message you want to send? The real power move isn't blocking them. It's showing that their existence doesn't faze you. It's letting them watch your progress, your success, and your evolution without flinching. Let them see that their absence doesn't break your stride, that your world continues to turn without missing a beat. Blocking someone is essentially running from a problem instead of facing it head on. It's the digital equivalent of covering your ears and pretending you're unaffected. But that's not strength. Strength is rooted in being completely unfazed by their presence. Strength is when you can scroll past their updates without a hint of emotion because you've leveled up so far beyond them that they don't even register as a factor anymore. Imagine this. Someone disrespects you, ghosts you, or betrays you. Your first instinct is to hit that block button because it feels like regaining control. But real control is in your mindset, not your settings. Blocking might eliminate the reminder of their existence, but it doesn't eliminate the hold they still have on your thoughts. It doesn't stop you from wondering what they're up to or whether they noticed your absence. Instead of blocking, work on your inner fortitude. Work on building a mindset so strong that you could stand right in front of them, look them dead in the eyes, and not feel a single ounce of anger, sadness, or regret. That's how you show you've moved on. That's how you demonstrate real power, by not being affected. When you block someone, you're essentially admitting that you haven't yet healed. You're acknowledging that their presence is still powerful enough to disrupt your peace. Instead, face the pain. Let it hurt, but let it mold you. Don't shy away from your emotions. Confront them. Use them as fuel to better yourself, to grow stronger, and to elevate your life to a point where their existence becomes insignificant. It's easy to block someone and feel like you've won, but that's a hollow victory. The real win comes when you don't need to block them to feel at peace. You let them watch if they choose to. Let them see the new unbreakable version of you. Let them witness your glow up, your triumphs, your relentless pursuit of greatness. Let them see that they did not destroy you. They only propelled you forward. When you're truly at peace, blocking someone doesn't even cross your mind because they no longer hold any weight in your life. You realize that your energy is too valuable to waste on trying to make a statement. The most profound statement is thriving in their presence, not despite it, and allowing your progress to make the noise. There's a saying, the best revenge is massive success. But it's not even about revenge. It's about evolving so profoundly that your past doesn't haunt you anymore. Blocking someone is temporary. Healing and outgrowing the pain are permanent. Let them be there. Let them see you. Let them watch your journey without having any power to influence it. That's the ultimate show of strength. That's how you turn weakness into unshakable power. Begging is one of the most degrading things you can do for yourself. It's an act of desperation that screams, I am powerless without you. And here's the truth. The moment you beg for someone's attention, affection, or validation, you place them on a pedestal so high that you shrink yourself into nothing. It's not just submission, it's surrender. It's handing over the keys to your happiness and self-worth and letting someone else decide what you deserve. Understand this. When you beg, you are choosing to devalue yourself. You are telling that person that their acceptance of you matters more than your own acceptance of yourself. You are throwing away your dignity piece by piece just for a few crumbs of affection. But affection gained through begging is never real affection. It's pity, it's tolerance, and it's never going to fulfill you. Why do people beg? It's simple. Fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being unloved, fear of rejection. And fear has a way of clouding your judgment, of making you believe that you need someone else's approval to be whole. But that's a lie. Needing someone else to validate your existence is the fastest way to destroy your own worth. The world is filled with people who will tell you to fight for what you love, but there's a massive difference between fighting for something worth building and begging for someone who's already made it clear they don't value you. One requires effort and dedication. The other is simply you throwing away your power. Let's be brutally honest here. When you beg, you're essentially saying, I am beneath you. You hold the power. I am not worthy unless you deem me so. And the worst part, it rarely ever works. Begging only pushes people further away. It shows weakness, it shows insecurity, and it shows an utter lack of self-respect. People respect confidence. They respect independence. They respect someone who knows their own worth and refuses to compromise it for anyone else. But begging, that's the complete opposite. It's like handing someone a loaded weapon and asking them to decide your fate. And in most cases, they will reject you because they can see you don't even value yourself. It's not just about romantic relationships either. Begging applies to friendships, business relationships, family dynamics, everything. When you beg for attention, validation, or approval, you're telling the world you don't believe you're enough. You're advertising your insecurities to anyone willing to take advantage of them. What you need to understand is that real power comes from walking away, from standing firm in your own value, from refusing to settle for anything less than what you truly deserve. You can't expect others to respect you if you don't respect yourself first. Every time you beg, you are reinforcing a mindset of lack and dependence. You are essentially training your mind to believe that your happiness is determined by external forces, that if someone doesn't choose you, then you're not worthy of being chosen. But that's complete nonsense. Your value doesn't decrease because someone fails to see it. If someone leaves, let them leave. If someone ignores you, let them. It's their loss, not yours, because you are the prize. And the moment you start seeing yourself that way, you will stop chasing, you will stop begging, and you will stop giving away your power to people who never deserved it in the first place. Imagine yourself begging someone to stay in your life, pleading, compromising, twisting yourself into something you're not just to win their approval. How does that feel? Desperate? Weak? Because that's exactly what it is. You're offering them your dignity on a silver platter and expecting them to respect you for it. They won't. They'll take what you give and walk away with even more power over you than before. The strongest people are the ones who walk away when they're not valued. They don't beg for validation. They don't plead for respect. They demand it by the way they carry themselves, by their actions, their growth, and their relentless pursuit of excellence. They understand that someone who truly appreciates them will never put them in a position to beg in the first place. Think about it. Why would you ever beg someone to see your worth when your worth is meant to be undeniable? Why would you plead for someone's affection when the right person will freely give it to you without question, without hesitation, without conditions? Begging is the ultimate betrayal of yourself. If you've ever found yourself begging, recognize it for what it is, a moment of weakness. But don't let it define you. Let it be a turning point, a realization that you're done with lowering yourself to be accepted. Because the truth is, the moment you stop begging and start respecting yourself, you begin to attract the kind of people and opportunities that actually deserve your energy. The key to power isn't in chasing, pleading, or compromising. It's in knowing your worth so deeply that the thought of begging becomes absurd. It's in standing so firmly in your value that others have no choice but to rise to meet you where you are or be left behind. The moment you stop begging, you start building. And when you start building, you become unstoppable. Most people will tell you to care less, to not let things get to you. But indifference is a whole different beast. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely reaching a point where you don't care, where their presence, their absence, their approval, their rejection, it all means nothing to you. Indifference is liberation. It's not coldness or cruelty, it's clarity. It's the ability to look at a situation and say, this doesn't affect me. Because the truth is, most of the things people obsess over, cry over, and fight over are nothing more than illusions of importance. They only matter because you allow them to matter. When someone pulls away from you, what do most people do? They panic, they chase. They try to fix the situation. They write paragraphs trying to explain themselves, trying to win back affection that was clearly never solid to begin with. But that's emotional slavery. It's a game where you lose every single time because you're playing by their rules. Now, let's talk about indifference. When you master indifference, you're no longer playing their game. You've left the table entirely. Indifference isn't about silence, it's about peace. It's about understanding that your happiness, your confidence, your entire identity is not wrapped up in what someone else thinks of you. It's built from within, fortified by your own actions, your own growth, your own vision. People think the opposite of love is hate. It's not, it's indifference. Hate still shows you care. It still means their actions have power over you. But indifference, that's where true freedom lies. Because when you're indifferent, you are untouchable. Imagine someone walks away from you thinking you'll chase after them, thinking you'll crumble, and instead you remain still, unbothered, thriving. You're not blocking them out of spite or begging them to stay. You're just living your life, completely detached from their approval or rejection. That's real power. That's what leaves them speechless. You see, when you react to someone's disrespect by begging for their validation or trying to prove yourself, you're feeding their ego. You're confirming their importance in your life. But indifference starves them. It leaves them wondering. It leaves them questioning what went wrong. And that's not a tactic to manipulate. It's simply the reality of someone who understands their own worth so deeply that no one's opinion can shake them. Indifference is the result of self-mastery. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely understanding that you're the prize and your energy is too valuable to waste on people who don't appreciate it. It's about building yourself so completely that losing someone doesn't feel like loss, it feels like clarity. Let's be honest, most people will do anything to get a reaction out of you. They'll provoke you, ignore you, and disrespect you just to see if they can break your composure. And the moment you respond emotionally, they win. But when you've mastered indifference, you've already won. Because their attempts to control you through your own emotions become utterly powerless. You've got to ask yourself, why should you care about someone who doesn't care about you? Why should you chase someone who clearly doesn't value you? Every second you spend thinking about them, reacting to them, is energy stolen from your own growth. And if your energy is scattered, then your power is scattered. Indifference is the art of reclaiming that power. People chase what they can't have. They crave what's out of their reach, and nothing is more out of reach than someone who has mastered indifference. Because you're not pretending to be above it all. You genuinely are. You've already elevated yourself to a level where their validation or rejection means nothing. Indifference doesn't mean you're numb to life. It means you're selective about what deserves your energy. It means you understand that some battles are not worth fighting, some people are not worth chasing, and some opinions are not worth your time. It's the art of not just letting go, but of never holding on in the first place. The most powerful people are the ones who have mastered indifference. They walk into a room and command respect, not by demanding it, but by radiating it. They don't waste time proving their worth because their worth is already evident in how they carry themselves. They don't need validation from anyone because they've already given it to themselves. Indifference doesn't come from arrogance or bitterness. It comes from understanding that your value isn't determined by who stays or who leaves. It's determined by who you choose to be every single day. And when you reach that level of understanding, you become unstoppable. Think of it like this. When you truly don't care, you can't be manipulated, you can't be dragged down by someone's absence or uplifted by their attention. You become solid, unshakable. You operate on a level where nothing and no one has the power to disrupt your peace. This is the power of indifference. It's the freedom of living your life on your own terms. It's the strength to look at the chaos around you and remain completely unbothered. And the moment you master this mindset, you will find that life itself becomes easier because you are no longer a victim of other people's actions. You are the architect of your own existence. Everything begins and ends with how you value yourself. It's the foundation of your confidence, your happiness, your success, and most importantly, your peace. And the brutal truth is, if you don't value yourself, no one else will. The world will treat you according to the standards you set for yourself. Most people spend their lives seeking validation from others. They chase relationships, friendships, jobs, and opportunities that they think will finally make them feel valuable. They bend over backward trying to prove their worth to people who never truly appreciated them to begin with. And the more you try to prove yourself to someone who doesn't respect you, the more you lose sight of your own worth. The problem is, when you place your value in someone else's hands, you hand over your power. You allow their opinion of you to dictate your self-worth. And when they fail to recognize your value, you start believing that you're not good enough. It's a vicious cycle, a self-inflicted wound that bleeds your confidence dry. But here's the truth. Your value doesn't decrease just because someone else fails to see it. It doesn't matter if they walked away. It doesn't matter if they rejected you. It doesn't even matter if they tried to tear you down with their words or their actions. What matters is how you see yourself. Value yourself enough to walk away from anything and anyone that doesn't respect you. Because if you stay, you're teaching them that their disrespect is acceptable. You're lowering your standards just to keep someone in your life who isn't even worth your time. And every time you compromise your self-respect for the sake of someone else's approval, you're chipping away at your own dignity. Self-value is about recognizing your own greatness without needing someone else to confirm it. It's about waking up every day with the understanding that you are enough, regardless of who chooses to stay or who decides to leave. Because the truth is, the right people, the ones who truly see your worth, will never put you in a position where you feel like you have to prove yourself. Think about this. When you truly value yourself, you don't beg, you don't chase. You don't plead for someone's attention or approval. Why? Because you understand that if someone cannot appreciate you for who you are, then their presence in your life is irrelevant. You respect yourself too much to fight for someone's love or attention. People who value themselves live by a simple rule. They attract, they do not chase. They understand that their worth is non-negotiable, and if someone can't see it, then it's not their problem. It's like standing in front of a priceless piece of art. If someone can't appreciate it, it's not the art that's lacking, it's the person's ability to recognize beauty. When you value yourself, you become more selective about where you invest your energy. You stop pouring effort into dead-end relationships, unfulfilling friendships, and toxic environments. You start guarding your energy like the priceless resource it is, because not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your kindness, your loyalty, your presence. And once you establish that level of self-respect, people start to notice. The same individuals who once took you for granted will suddenly wonder why their opinion no longer affects you. They'll question why their absence doesn't shake your world. And that's when you know you've reclaimed your power. Understand this, when you value yourself, you're no longer afraid of being alone. You'd rather be alone with your integrity intact than surrounded by people who don't respect you. You'd rather walk away than compromise your standards for temporary validation. Because you know your worth. You've built it brick by brick through every hardship, every rejection, every moment of pain that tried to break you. The world will constantly test your sense of value. It will throw situations and people at you designed to make you doubt yourself. It will try to convince you that you're not good enough, that you need to change to be accepted. But when you value yourself, none of that noise matters. It bounces off you like raindrops off steel. Valuing yourself doesn't mean you're arrogant. It doesn't mean you're above everyone else. It means you refuse to allow anyone to make you feel like you're less than what you are. It means you recognize your flaws and strengths alike and embrace them both. It means you're committed to your own growth, not for the sake of proving anything to anyone, but because you genuinely want to become the best version of yourself. When you value yourself, rejection doesn't destroy you, it refines you. It becomes fuel, because every setback, every insult, every dismissal becomes proof of your resilience. You learn to thrive despite what others think. You become stronger, wiser, more determined. And most importantly, you become free. You have to reach a point where your value is so deeply rooted within you that nothing and no one can diminish it. Where your confidence is not built on compliments, but on a solid foundation of self-respect and authenticity. Where your peace of mind doesn't depend on external validation, but on the unwavering belief in your own worth. Because the truth is, you will never be truly happy until you value yourself. You will never be truly free until you stop seeking approval from others. And you will never reach your full potential until you recognize that your value is inherent. It's not given by others, it's cultivated from within. Seeking validation is one of the most destructive habits you can have. It's like living your life as a puppet with the strings held by everyone else's opinions. You're constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering if what you're doing, how you're living, how you're speaking is acceptable to the world around you. But the truth is, the more you chase validation, the further you stray from your own authenticity. The need for validation is rooted in insecurity. It's the belief that your worth depends on how others see you. That somehow, your existence is only justified if people approve of you. But here's the harsh reality. If you're living for approval, you're not really living at all. You're merely existing in the shadow of other people's expectations. People waste years, sometimes even their entire lives, trying to gain the acceptance of others. They contort themselves into something they're not, just to fit into someone else's idea of worthiness. They water down their own potential, afraid that being fully themselves will push people away. And here's the irony. The more you seek validation, the less you receive it, because people can smell desperation. They can sense when your actions are motivated by the need for approval rather than genuine confidence. Think about it. When you beg for someone's approval, when you constantly seek reassurance, you're placing your self-worth in their hands. You're giving them the power to dictate how you feel about yourself. And when they don't give you the validation you crave, you fall apart. You question yourself, you lower your standards, you become willing to do anything just to feel accepted. Seeking validation is nothing more than giving other people control over your life. You become dependent on likes, comments, compliments, and recognition. And when they don't come, you feel worthless. But why? Because you built your confidence on a foundation of external validation rather than internal strength. True confidence doesn't come from being liked or admired. It comes from knowing who you are and being unapologetically yourself regardless of who approves. It's about understanding that your value is inherent and not subject to the opinions of others. Because the reality is, people will always have something to say. They will criticize you, doubt you, question your decisions. But their opinions don't matter. What matters is how you see yourself. Here's something you need to understand. The more you seek validation, the more you teach yourself that you're not good enough as you are. You reinforce the belief that your worth is conditional, that you need someone else's permission to feel valuable. And when you give other people that kind of power, you will always be at their mercy. The world is filled with people who will try to mold you into what they want you to be. Friends, family, partners, society, they all have their own ideas of who you should be and how you should act. And if you're constantly trying to meet those expectations, you will never be free. You will always be living someone else's version of your life. You have to reach a point where you no longer need anyone's approval to feel complete, where you're so grounded in your own identity that even if the entire world stands against you, you remain unmoved. That's real power. That's true confidence. When you stop seeking validation, you become untouchable. Criticism no longer bothers you because you're not trying to please anyone. Rejection doesn't break you because you're not looking for acceptance. You operate on your own terms, dictated by your own standards, guided by your own vision. But breaking free from validation seeking isn't easy. It requires brutal self-honesty. You have to look at yourself and admit where you've been compromising your authenticity just to be liked. You have to acknowledge where you've been giving away your power by caring too much about what other people think. It's about stripping away the layers of insecurity and rebuilding yourself from the ground up. It's about developing a mindset so powerful that external approval becomes irrelevant. A mindset where your value is non-negotiable, where you don't need anyone's applause to feel like you're enough. People often think that seeking validation is harmless, but it's not. It's a disease of the mind that slowly robs you of your freedom. It's the reason you stay in toxic relationships, accept disrespect, and remain stuck in mediocrity. Because as long as you're waiting for someone else to approve you, you're not truly living. You're just existing under their judgment. You have to understand that validation seeking is a prison. And the only way to break free is to stop looking outward and start looking inward. To build yourself up so completely that no one's opinion can tear you down. To reach a point where your confidence is built on your own belief in yourself, not the fleeting opinions of others. The irony is, the moment you stop seeking validation is the moment people start respecting you. When you carry yourself with genuine confidence, people are drawn to that energy. They see someone who is unshakable, someone who doesn't need their approval to feel whole. And that's attractive, that's powerful, but the goal isn't to be admired, it's to be free. To live your life without the weight of other people's opinions hanging over your head. To stand so firmly in your own identity that nothing and no one can take that away from you. You have to realize that the only validation that truly matters is the one you give yourself. That's the kind of confidence that lasts. The kind of confidence that doesn't waver in the face of rejection or criticism. The kind of confidence that allows you to walk away from anything and anyone that doesn't respect you. You are the only person who can truly validate your own worth. And once you master that, once you truly internalize that truth, you become unstoppable. Because your value is no longer dependent on anyone else's approval. It's yours, and yours alone. Pain is inevitable. Everyone experiences it. But the difference between those who rise and those who crumble is how they use that pain. Most people try to avoid it, suppress it, or numb it. They run away from it as if it's a curse rather than a tool. But the truth is, pain is one of the most powerful resources you have. If you harness it correctly, it becomes your greatest ally. You see, pain has a way of breaking you down to your core. It strips away the illusions, the comfort, the lies you tell yourself to stay comfortable. It reveals the raw, unfiltered version of who you truly are. And it's in those moments of darkness, those moments where you feel like you've been shattered into a million pieces, that you have the choice to either rebuild yourself stronger or stay broken. Most people make the mistake of letting pain define them instead of refine them. They let betrayal turn them bitter. They let rejection make them insecure. They let failure convince them that they're not good enough. They allow their pain to cripple them instead of using it as the fuel to propel them forward. But the powerful ones, they take every ounce of pain and turn it into power. They don't sit around feeling sorry for themselves. They don't waste time crying over what could have been. Instead, they channel that pain into something productive. They turn the hurt, the anger, the frustration into motivation. Think about it. When you're comfortable, you have no reason to push yourself. You have no urgency to improve, no fire driving you forward. Comfort breeds complacency, but pain wakes you up. It forces you to confront reality. It gives you the hunger, the desperation to change your situation. The strongest people you admire, the ones who seem unstoppable, didn't get there by living an easy, painless life. They got there by turning their pain into power. They took every betrayal, every failure, every insult, and used it as fuel to reach new heights. They didn't let pain break them. They let it build them. When someone disrespects you, when someone abandons you, when someone tries to tear you down, you have two choices. You can let that pain consume you, drag you down, and keep you stuck. Or you can take that pain, convert it into pure energy, and use it to become better than you've ever been. The truth is, pain can be a gift, but only if you choose to see it that way. Every time you feel hurt, angry, rejected, or defeated, you're being given an opportunity. An opportunity to prove to yourself what you're truly capable of. An opportunity to take all of that negative energy and transform it into something positive. Most people don't understand this. They spend their lives trying to avoid pain, trying to hide from it, pretending it doesn't exist. But the real power comes from confronting your pain head on and making it work for you. It's about taking control of your emotions rather than letting them control you. Pain is energy. And energy can't be destroyed. It can only be transformed. When you decide to use pain as fuel, you take something destructive and converting it into something productive. You're using every setback as a stepping stone, every insult as motivation, every rejection as a reason to become even better. Think about the people who doubted you, the people who walked away when you needed them the most, the people who tried to tear you down because they couldn't handle your potential. Instead of letting their actions break you, use them as fuel to become the best version of yourself. Because nothing proves people wrong more effectively than success. You have to reach a point where pain doesn't destroy you, it drives you. Where every time life hits you, you hit back harder, where every moment of suffering only sharpens your resolve. Because once you learn to use pain as fuel, nothing can stop you. But here's the catch, pain only becomes fuel when you use it consciously. When you choose to channel it towards something meaningful, when you decide that you will not allow the pain to control you, but instead you will control the pain. Most people waste their pain. They drown it in distractions, alcohol, meaningless relationships, temporary pleasure. But that's like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. It only makes things worse. The only way to truly conquer pain is to face it, own it, and use it. Understand this, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering is what happens when you refuse to use your pain. When you let it sit inside of you, eating away at your confidence, your motivation, your potential. But when you transform pain into fuel, you turn suffering into strength. Think about the most powerful engines in the world. They run on fuel created through intense pressure, heat, and transformation. Your pain is no different. It's raw energy waiting to be converted into something unstoppable. But you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to face it, process it, and channel it into something extraordinary. Let your pain sharpen your focus. Let it push you to grind harder, to work smarter, to elevate yourself beyond what anyone thought was possible. Let it turn you into a force so relentless that nothing and no one can hold you back. And here's the beauty of it. Once you learn to use pain as fuel, you become invincible. Because pain is no longer your enemy. It's your weapon. It's your fire. It's your driving force to achieve greatness. Every time you feel hurt, betrayed, rejected, or broken, remember that you're being handed pure energy. And how you use that energy is entirely up to you. You can either let it destroy you or let it drive you. The choice is yours. Silence is one of the most underrated tools of power. In a world where everyone feels the need to constantly speak, explain, justify, and defend themselves, silence stands out. It commands attention, it creates mystery, it conveys confidence, because those who are truly powerful don't need to shout. They don't need to convince others of their worth. Their silence does all the talking. When you remain silent, you become unpredictable. People are drawn to what they can't easily figure out. They want to know what's on your mind, what you're thinking, what you're planning. But the more you withhold, the more powerful you become. Because the moment you speak, you've given something away. You've handed them information they can use against you. There's a certain strength that comes with holding your tongue. It shows that you're not easily provoked, that you don't need to react to every slight, every insult, every attempt to rattle you. Because you know your worth, you know what you bring to the table, and most importantly, you know that not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your feelings, or your plans. People who talk too much are always trying to prove something. They over-explain, overshare, and overcompensate because they're desperate for validation. They want to be heard, to be understood, to be accepted, but true power doesn't beg for understanding. It doesn't demand recognition. It simply exists. Silence is the ultimate form of control. It forces others to question, to second guess, to make assumptions, and while they're busy trying to figure you out, you're already 5 steps ahead. Because you haven't revealed your cards, you've kept them guessing, wondering, obsessing. When you choose silence over words, you're telling the world that you don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need to justify your actions or defend your choices. You are perfectly comfortable with who you are, and nothing anyone says or does can shake that foundation. People will try to provoke you. They will say things to get a reaction, to pull you down to their level. They will test you, challenge you, disrespect you, and when you respond with silence, it kills them. Because silence shows strength, it shows restraint, it shows that their words hold no power over you. Think about it, the most powerful individuals throughout history have always known the value of silence. They don't waste their energy trying to convince others of their power. They demonstrate it through their actions, through their presence, through their results. They understand that silence speaks louder than words ever could. Silence isn't about passivity. It's not about being weak or avoiding confrontation. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about conserving your energy for the things that truly matter. It's about recognizing that not everyone deserves a response. And here's the truth. The moment you react, you give away your power. You give others control over your emotions. You allow them to dictate your state of mind. But when you respond with silence, you maintain control. You decide when to engage and when to remain detached. Most people don't understand this. They think power lies in being loud and making their presence known and dominating conversations. But real power is subtle. It's unspoken. It's the ability to remain calm and composed when everyone else is losing their minds. Silence is a weapon. And like any weapon, its effectiveness depends on how you use it. It's not about shutting down or running away. It's about mastering the art of saying nothing when nothing needs to be said. It's about withholding your energy until the perfect moment to strike. When you remain silent, you're not just withholding words. You're withholding access. You're setting boundaries. You're sending a message that your thoughts, your plans, your intentions are not up for public consumption. And that level of self-control is rare. It's intimidating. It's powerful. People fear what they can't understand. And nothing is more difficult to understand than someone who chooses silence over senseless chatter. Because silence implies confidence, it implies strength, it implies a level of self-assurance that most people will never attain. Think about the last time someone tried to get a reaction out of you. They insulted you, criticized you, maybe even tried to humiliate you. And when you responded with nothing but silence, it destroyed them. because their power came from your reaction. And when you refused to give it to them, their power vanished. You have to understand that not everything deserves your attention. Not every insult requires a response. Not every argument is worth your time. When you respond to nonsense, you lower yourself to the level of those who are trying to drag you down. But when you remain silent, you rise above it. Silence is a form of respect for yourself. It shows that you value your energy, your peace, your dignity. It shows that you're not willing to waste your breath on those who don't deserve it. And most importantly, it shows that you don't need anyone's approval to feel validated. True power is silent. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to scream for attention. It simply exists, and those who recognize it will be drawn to it. Those who don't will remain oblivious, lost in their own noise. When you master the art of silence, you become untouchable. Because no matter what anyone says or does, you remain in control. You hold the keys to your own emotions, your own actions, your own destiny, and nothing is more powerful than that. Living for yourself is one of the most liberating things you can do, yet it's something most people never achieve. They spend their entire lives trying to please everyone else, to fit into boxes they were never meant to fit into, to follow paths laid out by people who have no idea what they truly want or need. They let society, friends, family, and even strangers dictate how they should live, and then wonder why they feel empty and unfulfilled. The truth is, you cannot live a meaningful life if your existence revolves around pleasing others. If your choices are dictated by what's popular, acceptable, or admired by others, then you're not living at all. You're merely existing, a puppet with your strings pulled by the expectations and opinions of those around you. And as long as you let those strings control you, you will never be free. People will always have something to say. They will criticize you, judge you, try to steer you in directions that make them feel more comfortable. They will project their own fears, insecurities, and limitations onto you. And if you let them, they will keep you stuck in mediocrity for the rest of your life. But here's the thing, it's not their life to live, it's yours. Most people are terrified of standing out. They would rather blend in, be accepted, and avoid criticism. They waste years trying to meet expectations they never even agreed to. They try to fit into societal standards of success, beauty, happiness, and worth. But why? To gain the approval of people who don't even matter. To impress strangers who will forget about them tomorrow. Living for others is a losing game. No matter what you do, there will always be someone who disapproves. Someone who thinks you're not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough. And the harder you try to please them, the further you stray from your true self. The reality is, you cannot make everyone happy. And the more you try, the more miserable you become. Living for yourself means reclaiming your power. It means making choices based on your own desires, your own values, your own vision for your life. It means pursuing goals that matter to you, not the ones society has convinced you to chase. It means refusing to settle for a life that doesn't fulfill you, simply because it's easier to conform. You have to understand that most people are trapped in the same cycle of approval seeking and mediocrity. They are so consumed with trying to be liked, respected, and admired that they never stop to ask themselves what they truly want. They take jobs they hate, stay in relationships that drain them, and pretend to be someone they're not, all for the sake of acceptance. But here's the brutal truth, you only get one life, and wasting it trying to live up to someone else's expectations is the greatest tragedy of all. If you spend your days trying to please everyone else, you will wake up one day and realize you've betrayed yourself. That you've spent years chasing dreams that weren't even yours. That you've lived a life that was never truly yours to begin with. Living for yourself is not selfish, it's necessary. Because when you live for yourself, you're finally giving yourself permission to be who you truly are. You're no longer bound by the expectations of others. You're no longer limited by their approval. You are free to create a life that aligns with your own vision, your own values, your own happiness. When you stop living for others, you gain something far more valuable than their approval. You gain self-respect. You begin to value your own opinion over the opinions of strangers. You start making decisions based on what's right for you, not what's convenient for them. And suddenly you find yourself on a path that feels genuine, a path that feels right. The people who try to tell you how to live your life are usually the ones who are miserable with their own. They try to push their version of success onto you because they can't face the fact that they've wasted years chasing something they never truly wanted. Misery loves company, and they will try to drag you down to their level if you let them. But when you choose to live for yourself, their opinions lose all power over you. You stop caring about their approval because you realize it was never needed in the first place. You become immune to their criticism because you're no longer seeking their validation. And that is when you truly become powerful. Living for yourself means setting your own standards. It means deciding what success looks like for you. It means pursuing your passions relentlessly, unapologetically, without hesitation. It means walking away from anything and anyone that doesn't serve your growth, because you understand that your time, your energy, your life are all precious resources that should never be wasted trying to fit into someone else's mold. You will face resistance. People will try to guilt trip you, shame you, and convince you that you're being selfish for putting yourself first. But what they're really saying is that they don't want you to be free. They don't want you to break away from the herd. Because if you do, it forces them to confront their own lack of courage, but that's not your problem. Your only responsibility is to yourself. To live a life that feels meaningful to you. To pursue what sets your soul on fire, regardless of whether or not it makes sense to anyone else. To stay true to who you are, even when the world tries to force you into conformity. You owe it to yourself to live fully, to create a life that feels like yours, not a life that's been dictated by other people's expectations. You owe it to yourself to be unapologetically authentic, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Because the truth is, the people who truly matter will respect you more for being real than for being agreeable. Living for yourself is about reclaiming your freedom. It's about breaking away from the chains of approval seeking and finally choosing to live on your own terms. It's about understanding that you are the only one who has to live with the consequences of your decisions. And if you're going to make mistakes, they might as well be yours. It's time to stop living for them and start living for you. Because at the end of the day, you are the only one responsible for your own happiness. You see, the key to all of this is reclaiming your power. It's about understanding that you are in control of your own life, your own destiny, your own happiness. It's about breaking free from the chains of validation seeking and stepping into a place of true power where your worth is defined by you and you alone. So don't block him. Don't beg. Don't waste your time chasing after people who don't see your value. Don't let their rejection, their opinions, or their disrespect dictate how you live your life. Because the moment you do, you hand them your power. And you are never meant to live in anyone's shadow. Let your silence speak for you. Let your actions do the talking. Let your pain be the fuel that drives you to greatness. Live for yourself, not for them. And watch as your power grows, as your confidence becomes unshakable, as your life transforms into something extraordinary. You owe it to yourself to become the person you were always meant to be. Not the version they want you to be. Not the version that seeks their approval, but the real you, unapologetically powerful, resilient, and unstoppable. From this moment forward, refuse to let anyone's disrespect, rejection, or doubt define you. Stand tall, stay silent, move with purpose, and above all, keep moving forward, because the only person who can truly stop you is you. Now go out there and live like you mean it.